The reggae industry has a dark secret they have kept buried for 50 years. I am exposing the 8 legendary reggae artists who built the entire genre but died in complete poverty. The system deliberately erased their names from history. You must stick around until the end, because the final artist story is the most heartbreaking betrayal in music history. At number 8 stands Leroy "Horsemouth" Wallace, the drummer whose hands carried the pulse of Jamaica. In the 1970s, while the world grooved to the beat of reggae, it was Horsemouth who gave that beat its heart. His one-drop rhythm wasn't just a pattern, it was a heartbeat, a spiritual metronome that turned struggle into song. He recorded for Burning Spear, Bunny Wailer, the Abyssinians, and countless Studio One sessions. Every snare hit was a message, every roll a prayer. Yet, when the records sold, when the producers grew rich, Horsemouth saw nothing. His name was buried in liner notes, his earnings swallowed by contracts written in fine print. In 1978, he starred in the film Rockers, a movie that captured the struggle of Jamaica's working musicians. But what the world didn't realize was that the film wasn't fiction. It was autobiography. The drummer on screen was a reflection of the drummer off it, hustling for food, begging for royalties, carrying the rhythm of a nation while living in silence. Even as his hands grew older, he never stopped playing. Because for Horsemouth, music was not a career, it was survival. At number 7, the story turns to Junior Byles, a voice so haunting it seemed carved from the soul of Kingston itself. Discovered and mentored by the legendary Lee Scratch Perry, Byles sang like a prophet who had seen both heaven and hell. Curly Locks and Fade Away were more than hits. They were spiritual cries, messages of hope and despair intertwined. But the same fire that fueled his creativity burned him from within. Fame arrived too quickly, and the pressures of the industry, exploitation, manipulation, and maltreatment drove him into the shadows of his own mind. In time, he disappeared from the charts, from the studios, from the spotlight. For decades, he wandered Kingston streets barefoot, unwell, and forgotten. There were moments when passersby would stop and whisper, "That's Junior Byles." The man who once carried the sound of revolution now sang softly to himself, surrounded not by fans, but by ghosts of memory. And yet, through all the madness, he never lost his essence. His voice cracked, fragile, and eternal remained the voice of truth in a world that had forgotten compassion. At number 6 comes Michael Prophet, the man whose voice could weep and wail in the same breath. His signature cry was not just a style, it was a wound. When G-Man hit the airwaves in the 1980s, it captured the violence and tension of Jamaican streets. But behind the anthem stood a man battling his own struggles. Producers pocketed the profits. Labels stole the rights. And while others grew rich from his voice, Michael Prophet performed in small clubs, surviving on applause and faith. He migrated to the United Kingdom, seeking a better life, but found the same injustice waiting for him. Different country, same exploitation. When cancer came, it met a man already bruised by life. Yet he never stopped singing. On dimly lit stages, his voice still soared, not for fame, not for money, but for peace of mind. In 2017, when Michael Prophet passed away, tributes poured in, but it was too late. The Prophet had already given everything to a world that refused to pay him back. At number 5 is Nicky Thomas, the singer who turned struggle into song. Born in humble beginnings, he became the voice of the voiceless, with Love of the Common People. That song reached the UK Top 10 in 1970, a song that spoke of poverty, unity, and the human spirit. Yet, as his voice soared across nations, his empire began to crumble. The same industry that embraced his song abandoned the man behind it. Royalties never arrived. Promoters made promises they didn't keep. By the 1980s, Nicky Thomas was living in obscurity, battling depression and despair. He was a gentle soul, and the world's silence broke him. In 1990, at only 41, he passed away a tragedy that stripped reggae of one of its purest voices. The man who sang of hope died hopeless. And today, as his music still echoes on radios, one must wonder, how can a song so full of life come from a man so crushed by it? At number 4, Delroy Wilson, the golden boy who became the forgotten man. They called him the Dean of Reggae, the child prodigy of Studio One. His voice carried innocence and fire, tenderness and rebellion, dancing mood. Better Must Come. Songs that defined an era that gave Jamaica confidence in itself. But behind every smile in the photographs was a man growing weary. The money never matched the fame. The drink became his companion. The stage his only home. By the 1990s, his health failed, and so did the calls for shows. When he died in 1995, Delroy Wilson had no fortune, no comfort, no fanfare, just a legacy of music the world still dances to, often without knowing the price he paid. At number 3 is Prince Far One, the thunderous chanter whose voice could shake Babylon itself. He didn't sing, he declared. He roared. His songs, titled Under Heavy Manners and Message from the King, were cries for justice in a world built on inequality. But while his words inspired millions, his reality remained bleak. He lived simply, often struggling to provide for his family, his deep voice echoing through small halls and open-air stages where payment came in promises. In 1983, during a robbery, the prophet's voice was silenced forever. His death was sudden, but his struggle had been lifelong. His story is a warning that in reggae, even kings could die paupers. At number 2, we honor Vivian Jackson, the mystical Yabby U. Born into poverty, crippled by rickets, and walking on crutches since childhood, he was not supposed to survive. But he did more than survive. He transformed suffering into song. Known as the Jesus Dread, Yabby U became one of reggae's most spiritual figures, crafting hymns of faith and redemption. His production of Conquering Lion remains a cornerstone of roots reggae, and yet the industry betrayed him too. Cheated by labels, denied royalties, he lived humbly until the end. Even in pain, he spoke of Jah's glory, of redemption, of spiritual triumph. He was poor in material things, but rich in faith. When he passed in 2010, the world lost a prophet who never stopped believing, even when the world stopped believing in him. And at number 1, Tyrone Taylor, the silky voice of love and heartbreak. His songs, Cottage and Negril, Members Only, carried romance, sunshine, and sorrow all at once. He sang for the lovers, the dreamers, the ones who found hope in melody. But behind that smooth voice was a man slowly being crushed by life's weight. Bad contracts, vanishing royalties, and illness shadowed his later years. Diabetes weakened him, while neglect from the industry finished the rest. By the time he passed in 2007, Tyrone Taylor had given reggae its softest anthems, but died without comfort. His songs still fill the air, but the man who sang them lies in quiet earth. His story untold by those who profited from his sound. These 8 men, Horsemouth, Byles, Prophet, Thomas, Wilson, Far Rye, Yabby U, and Taylor, built the temple of reggae. But when the music stopped, they stood outside its gates, unheard. Their stories remind us that reggae's rhythm was not only made of drums and bass, but of pain and persistence. The world dances still to songs born from their suffering. So, the next time the needle drops and the rhythm begins to roll, pause, listen closely. Behind every melody of joy, there is a sigh of struggle. Behind every chorus of hope, a cry for justice. These men gave reggae its soul, and in return, the world gave them silence. But in that silence, their spirits still sing softly, eternally, remember us. Now you know the tragic truth behind reggae's greatest voices. Tell me which artist's story shocked you the most. Let me know if you were aware of this systemic exploitation in the music industry. Share which legends you believe deserve the greatest recognition in the comments. Make sure to follow for more uncovered stories about the artists the industry abandoned.